Welcome to a special Global Tennis Bulletin. The sports world thrives on storylines, but nothing could prepare the tennis ecosystem for the massive, echoing storm that has just engulfed the Berlin Open. In a twist that has sent shockwaves through the Women's Tennis Association Tour, social media, and international sports federations, a tournament historically celebrated as a premier grass court destination has been thrown into a full-scale public relations disaster. This is a story of an unexpected, deafening fan backlash that occurred not over an active sporting controversy on the court, but because of an empty stadium, a dream cut short, and a stark realization about the modern business of global tennis. The epicenter of this controversy centers on one of the most meteoric, thrilling rises in contemporary tennis, the 21-year-old Filipino sensation, Alex Eala. Famously known to her massive, fiercely loyal global fan base as Alex Eala, the teenage phenomenon entered the WTA 500 tournament in Berlin as a wild card. She was a young player looking to find her footing on grass, a surface notorious for testing the tactical patience and technical adaptability of the world's finest baseline athletes. What followed over the next 5 days was an absolute fairy tale run that completely transcended the sport. Eala did not just compete, she slayed giants. She dismantled Grand Slam champions, stunned the upper echelons of the world rankings, and single-handedly transformed the atmospheric reality of the Steffi Graf Stade in her opening round. Eala put the world on notice by defeating the gritty and experienced Donna Vekic in straight sets, sealing a 7-5, 6-4 masterclass that combined blistering ground strokes with ice-cold poise under pressure. But that was just a prologue. In the round of 16, Eala pulled off what many analysts are calling one of the most monumental upsets of the entire tennis season, a breathtaking 7-5, 6-4 triumph over the world number 2 and former Wimbledon champion, Elena Rybakina. The young Filipino weathered Rybakina's famously booming, unstoppable serves, absorbed the pace with spectacular baseline defensive coverage, and continuously forced the Kazakhstani powerhouse into uncomfortable, unforced errors. The momentum was unstoppable. By the quarterfinals, Eala faced a hardened Ukrainian veteran and former world number 3, Alina Svitolina. Demonstrating a tactical maturity that completely belied her age, Eala stormed to an early lead, commanded the court with 4 aces, and systematically closed out the veteran 6-3, 6-4 to book her historic place in her very first WTA 500 semifinal. With every single victory, the crowd dynamics in Berlin underwent a radical, unprecedented shift. Tens of thousands of fans from a massive global Filipino diaspora, alongside neutral tennis purists completely enchanted by this modern-day David versus Goliath story, locked their eyes onto Berlin. The Steffi Graf Stadium became an electrical grid of human energy. Ticket sales spiked. Digital streaming platforms reported record-breaking viewership numbers, and social media mentions of the Berlin Open went into absolute overdrive. Alex Eala had become the undeniable heartbeat, the marquee attraction, and the primary commercial engine of the tournament. The world was collectively preparing for a grand finale where this cultural phenomenon would finally claim her crowning glory on the historic grass of Germany. Then came the fateful semifinal clash on Saturday, June 20th, against Czech star Linda Noskova. Noskova, a phenomenal athlete in her own right, and the world number 13, proved to be an insurmountable tactical wall. Having met twice in their junior years, where Eala had the upper hand, the professional ranks have written a drastically different story. Noskova's deep, piercing ground strokes and high comfort level on the grass courts allowed her to neutralize Eala's aggressive baseline play. Despite a spirited, roaring effort from the packed stands, Eala fell in straight sets, 6-2, 6-4. It was the most games Noskova had conceded to any opponent throughout her entire tournament run, but it marked the definitive end of the Filipino fairy tale in Berlin. Eala walked away with an abundance of grace, leaving behind a heartfelt message on her social media platforms, expressing how full her heart was and extending eternal gratitude to Berlin for a week that rocketed her ranking up to world number 30, guaranteeing her a coveted seating at Wimbledon. But while Eala left the court with a smile, the tennis world did not share her composure. The immediate fallout from her exit became glaringly, uncomfortably obvious the very next day during the grand final between Linda Noskova and the American superstar Jessica Pegula. The unexpected fan backlash struck like lightning. The moment the television cameras panned across the historic Steffi Graf Stadium for the championship match, a chilling sight met millions of viewers worldwide. Rows upon rows of empty plastic seats. The electric, pulsating, sold-out atmosphere that had characterized the previous days of the tournament had completely evaporated. The stadium looked abandoned, devoid of the passion, the cheers, and the human warmth that a premier WTA 500 final rightfully commands. The backlash was immediate, severe, and multi-layered. Fans took to social media platforms, tennis forums, and official broadcasting comment sections to voice their absolute dismay and outrage. The core narrative of the backlash was simple yet profound. No Alex Eala, no crowd. The sudden, massive drop-off in attendance laid bare a brutal reality that tournament organizers were entirely unprepared to face. Thousands of fans who had purchased tickets solely to witness the historical trajectory of the Filipina phenom chose to stay home, leaving the final to be played in an atmosphere that felt more like a closed-door training session than an elite international championship. This dramatic boycott sparked an intense global conversation about the volatile nature of modern sports fandom, the dangerous reliance of major tournaments on a single individual star player, and the critical failure of tennis marketing strategies to sustain audience engagement when a local or global favorite is knocked out. As the dust settles on Berlin, the tournament finds its reputation deeply bruised, facing intense scrutiny from sponsors, broadcasting partners, and tennis executives alike. To fully understand how a premier European grass court tournament found itself facing such unprecedented public backlash, we must conduct a comprehensive, multidimensional deep dive into the underlying forces at play. This situation is not merely an isolated incident of poor ticket sales. It is a fascinating case study at the intersection of cultural nationalism, the evolving sociology of modern sports fandom, the corporate vulnerabilities of sports marketing, and the technical mechanics of professional tennis. Let us first examine the sheer power of cultural nationalism and the unique phenomenon of the global Filipino sports diaspora. The Philippines is a nation with an extraordinary, deep-seated passion for sports, but historically, its international triumphs have been concentrated in boxing and weightlifting. When an athlete emerges in a highly globalized, historically Eurocentric sport like professional tennis, the collective pride of an entire global population of over 110 million citizens at home, combined with millions more living across Europe, North America, and the Middle East, is mobilized instantly. Alex Eala is not viewed by her fans as merely an individual professional athlete fighting for ranking points and prize money. She is a cultural ambassador, a symbol of national arrival on a stage that has seldom seen Southeast Asian representation at the elite level. When Eala advanced through the draw in Berlin, defeating monumental figures like Elena Rybakina and Alina Svitolina, it triggered a psychological phenomenon known in sociology as basking in reflected glory. The global Filipino community did not just watch her matches. They physically and digitally occupied the tournament space. For 3 consecutive days, the Steffi Graf Stadium was transformed into an arena that mirrored the energy of a home game in Manila. Fans traveled from neighboring European countries, including large contingents from across Germany, the United Kingdom, and France, purchasing premium tickets on short notice, waving national flags, and creating an acoustic environment that completely disrupted the traditionally quiet, polite conventions of Western tennis crowds. This brings us directly to the structural failure of the tournament's ticketing and marketing architecture. Modern sports tournaments are highly corporate entities that rely heavily on corporate hospitality packages, pre-sold season tickets, and advanced general admission. However, a significant portion of single-day tickets are kept available for the general public. When Eala entered the semifinals, a massive surge of speculative ticket buying occurred for both the semifinal Saturday and the final Sunday. Fans bought tickets for the final under the fully logical assumption that the unstoppable momentum of Eala would carry her into the championship match. When Linda Noskova systematically dismantled that dream on Saturday evening, a massive economic and sociological disconnect occurred. The fans who had purchased tickets specifically to see Eala were suddenly holding entry passes to a match featuring 2 phenomenal players, Noskova and Pegula, who, despite their elite world rankings and technical brilliance, did not possess the specific, hyper-localized cultural draw required to fill those seats on short notice. In past decades, Tennis purists would still occupy the stadium, simply to witness elite grass court tennis. However, the contemporary landscape of sports consumption has shifted dramatically toward personality-driven fandom. Fans today follow individual human narratives rather than the abstract prestige of the tournament itself. When the narrative they invested in was eliminated, their motivation to sit in the stands vanished completely. The visual consequence of this shift was devastating for television broadcasters. Elite sports are fundamentally a television product designed to project an image of prestige, high energy, and intense demand. When global broadcasting networks like Disney+, WOW, and Video beamed the live feed of the final around the world, the empty seats sent a clear, damaging message. This event lacks cultural relevance. For premium corporate sponsors who pay millions of dollars to have their logos plastered across the courtside banners, the sight of empty stands directly behind their branding represents a severe drop in return on investment. Sponsors do not just pay for eyeballs on a screen. They pay to be associated with an event that feels vital, alive, and packed with consumer enthusiasm. The barren stands of the final stripped the event of its prestige, creating an administrative headache for the German Open organizers who must now justify these numbers to disgruntled corporate partners. Furthermore, we must analyze the technical and stylistic elements of the tennis itself to understand why the final failed to capture the imagination of the remaining local audience. Grass court tennis is highly specialized. Points are short, serves are dominant, and the low bounce demands exceptional physical pliability. Linda Noskova's game style is clinical, efficient, and highly focused. She is an athlete who thrives on internal composure, rarely showing explosive emotion on the court. Jessica Pegula operates under a very similar blueprint: calm, metered, highly intelligent counterpunching. While this makes for a masterclass in tactical tennis, it lacks the raw, theatrical, emotional vulnerability that captures casual sports fans. Alex Eala's matches, by contrast, were absolute theatrical dramas. Her battles featured dramatic momentum shifts, passionate fist pumps, and a clear, visible connection with the audience. She invited the crowd into her emotional space, turning every single baseline rally into a collective human struggle. When that emotional theater was replaced by the cold, mechanical efficiency of Noskova and Pegula, the casual sporting audience simply tuned out. The tournament organizers also committed a critical strategic error in their failure to pivot their marketing efforts late Saturday night. In the modern digital age, when a megastar or a viral sensation is eliminated from a tournament, the marketing department must immediately launch a hyper-targeted, localized campaign to re-engage the local community. Berlin is a massive metropolitan area with thousands of tennis clubs and recreational players. Had the organizers instantly slashed ticket prices for Sunday morning, offered promotional packages to local youth academies, or framed the Noskova-Pegula final as a historic tactical battle between a rising generation of Eastern Europe and established American brilliance, they could have easily filled the Steffi Graf Stadium with local sports enthusiasts. Instead, they relied on traditional rigid ticketing models, maintaining high prices, and hoping that the prestige of a WTA 500 final would be enough to draw a crowd. It was an archaic approach in a modern, dynamic marketplace, and the resulting empty seats were a direct consequence of that institutional inertia. This controversy also exposes a deeper, structural vulnerability within the WTA Tour itself. Men's tennis spent nearly 2 decades insulated from this problem due to reliable, continuous dominance of the Big Three, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, who guaranteed sold-out stadiums regardless of which combination made the final. Women's tennis, characterized by an incredible depth and high unpredictability, relies far more heavily on localized storylines and the emergence of breakout stars. When a breakout star like Eala appears, she provides a massive, temporary financial injection to whatever tournament she graces. However, when she leaves behind a vacuum. The WTA has struggled for years to build sustained, cross-cultural brand recognition for players who are quiet achievers, like Noskova. The fact that a world number 13 playing in a premier final cannot draw a capacity crowd in a major European capital is a damning indictment of the tour's collective marketing efficacy. It proves that the sport has failed to educate the broader public on the value of elite competitive depth, leaving tournaments completely at the mercy of unpredictable wildcard runs. The immediate timeline following this disaster shows that the conversation is far from over. As Eala transitions seamlessly to her next chapter, partnering with the legendary Venus Williams in doubles at the Bad Homburg Open and preparing for a seeded run at Wimbledon, her star continues to rise unimpeded. Her commercial value has skyrocketed, and her position as the most popular player on the WTA Tour is actively being debated across major sports platforms. But for the Berlin Open, the economic hangover is just beginning. Ticket sales data will be reviewed, broadcasting metrics will be analyzed, and difficult conversations will take place behind closed doors regarding how to prevent such a visual and atmospheric collapse from ever happening again. The empty seats of the Steffi Graf Stadium will long remain a defining image of the tennis season. It stands as a powerful monument to the changing dynamics of global sports fandom, a visual proof that in the modern era, the name on the back of the jersey, or the athlete holding the racket, holds far more power than the institution hosting the event. Alex Eala didn't just play tennis in Berlin. She exposed a delicate, highly volatile foundation upon which the commercial success of modern tennis tournaments is built. This entire episode serves as a stern, unyielding wake-up call to sports executives worldwide. The era of if you build it, they will come is officially dead. Prestige is no longer a self-sustaining currency. In a world where media consumption is hyper-fragmented and driven entirely by personal narratives, digital connection, and emotional investment, tournaments can no longer afford to be passive venues. They must become active, agile narrative creators. The dependency on a single athlete to drive live attendance is a high-stakes gamble that risks total operational embarrassment when the unpredictable nature of sports inevitably takes over. As we look forward to the grass court cathedrals of Wimbledon, the lessons of Berlin will undoubtedly loom large. For Alex Eala, the world is her stage, and her army of devoted fans will follow her wherever she goes, ready to turn any stadium into a home court. But for the custodians of professional tennis tournaments, the challenge now is to figure out how to keep the lights on and the stands full when the star of the show leaves the stage. Thank you for joining this deep dive into the business, culture, and drama of elite professional tennis. Stay tuned to this channel as we continue to track the fascinating intersections of global sports, culture, and economy. Until next time,